All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of our Driver Focus here on YouTube. We are joined by Joey Ternullo, who usually is my co-host in these Driver Focus episodes. And today I'm sitting down with him here in his shop in Portland, Connecticut to interview him. So, Joe, thank you for being here with me today.
Yeah, definitely. This is really cool to do. Me and you have spent so much time on our Wednesday live streams and going around and doing the Driver Focuses on people's shops or whether they come into the RaceChoice studio. So it's kind of nice to see the two RaceChoice employees sitting down and having an interview.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely excited to sit down with you. I know you've done a lot over your career. You know, our careers kind of have had a really similar path. So it's going to be cool to hear kind of all the stories and how you got to where you are now. So why don't we start there? Let's go all the way back to the days where you kind of just got into racing. Talk about, you know, where you started and kind of who got you into racing.
Yeah, so it's, you know, a fairly interesting story. I started racing in 2006 at Silver City. You began your racing career at Silver City. So 2006, quite a long time ago. My dad was into racing his, growing up in his entire life. Always watched NASCAR and stuff like that. I grew up a NASCAR fan before I even started racing. Can remember, as long as I can remember, watching Daytona 500s and stuff, even maybe pre-2006. So I started in Meriden, bought my first quarter midget off Anthony Flannery, who lives not far from here in East Hampton. Anthony Flannery races at the Speedbowl with us. Known the Flannery family for a long time, so they were kind of guiding me through getting started with quarter midgets. So I bought my first quarter midget off them, started racing April 2006. That was the first race. And I stayed at Silver City not as long as you would think. I only stayed there for 4 seasons, so 06 to 09, which is not really a long time if you can figure out or figure quarter midget length and people that. Yeah,
a lot of guys kind of, you know, I would say an average quarter midget, you know, span is usually maybe 5 or 6 years, right? Until you kind of get to that, 12, 13, year old kind of range where you're ready for a Bando or a Legend or something along the lines of that. So that's kind of surprising, I bet, to most people that you only spent 3 years. I didn't even know that you only spent 3 years there. So
yeah, I mean, I was pretty successful there. I didn't win any championships, unfortunately, but we did have, I think I won my 3rd or 4th race out in the novice division, so I adapted really quickly. And then I only had 2 quarter midgets as well. I know a lot of people have 4 or 5 nowadays, but I ran with 2. I think the second year I got my second one. So the first year I was running with 1 car, junior novice, picked up my second one, ran the senior stock divisions, light 160, senior Honda. Some of those divisions don't even exist today. So ran that up into 2009, and then 2010 bought a Bandolero and went down to Waterford.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And real quick to just touch back on the quarter midgets a little bit. I think, what kind of chassis did you run over the quarter midgets?
I was Cheetah all the way through. I was very close with the.
I remember that. I remember the car very vividly. It was a kind of a yellowish, right? Yellow, red, orange. Yeah. Kind of had that
like cheetah print on the hood.
I remember it because when you were getting out of quarter midgets in 2009, that was my first year at Silver City. So I do remember you. Racing over there and being successful. But, a lot of guys were starting to kind of come along with, the Nervos, the Bull Riders. So, you were I don't think there were as many Cheetahs right at the time. They kind of were, guys were starting to build up more like the Bull Riders and stuff like that. So, but it's nice to know that you were still successful with kind of a chassis like that was kind of a little bit older, right?
Yeah, because, I mean, when I bought the car off Flannery, it was a Cheetah also, and he had many Cheetahs throughout his quarter midget career. So, he hooked me up with the Sherman family, and my dad was like, if we have a good contact, we're close with the Flannerys, we're close with the Sherman family that are the chassis manufacturers, let's just stick with it and ride it out. And it was really successful. They were always at the track back in the day. Any questions you have, even today, like 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, even having people at the track that know the chassis, that manufacture the chassis, you can't go wrong with that.
And not a big amount has changed really from, a lot of, the big car stuff nowadays has changed from 20 years ago, but the quarter midget stuff, I feel like kind of hasn't really changed a whole lot, as like the big car stuff has, whereas in the modifieds, things have gotten a lot more advanced, whereas in the quarter midgets, things kind of seem like, the setups of the cars and kind of, everything kind of seems like it hasn't really taken a big swing, which is a nice thing to know, for people kind of getting into it.
Yeah, I would agree. The technology in modifieds and even late models, super late models is so advanced nowadays.
It's almost cup level, right?
It really is.
Some of these big teams kind of have that, good technology good, smart guys. Some guys, working on modifieds now, right, or late models that kind of come down from the cup level and kind of want that more at home feel. So it's like you said,
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, just the advanced technology nowadays in racing is amazing what they come up with. I mean, you go down to the snowball derby and stuff like that, it's literally like a cup race. It almost is.
Absolutely.
There's so many smart and talented people there, not just in the driver's standpoint, but crew chiefs, crew members. It's really professional level of racing down there, which is why I'll always look back in quarter midgets like kind of that starting foundation, Bandoleros, legend cars, and now the SK Modifieds.
Absolutely. So, talked about bandos real quick. Let's get into that. Super successful in the bandos, right? You ran, I know your first year was 2010.
2010, yeah.
And how many years were you over there with
So I ran full-time in 2010, 2011, and then 2012 I ran full-time with the legend cars and did part-time in the bandos. So you can say 3 seasons in bandos, but really 2 that were full-time.
Yeah. So talk about, kind of making the transition from quarter midget racing, a little track like Silver City. Those of you that know quarter midget tracks, obviously pretty small for, the kids, smaller tracks. And you kind of go and run probably one of the biggest tracks that the bandos, that the bandos run on in the entire country. I mean, a 3/8 mile track. Talk about that and what that was like for you.
Yeah, going down to Waterford, it was definitely scary. We got the car in January of 2010 off Jags. Jags is a great, great support. I'm still dealing with him today for friends' help. You race against Jason on Saturday. So Jags hooked us up with a Bandolero back then. Hard to believe, over 13 years ago now, more 13 years ago. So really, kind of time flies, but I remember it pretty well. We went down to a Waterford practice, I think kind of the end of April. That's back when they started the season back in March. So I kind of didn't run the Saturday opener. I kind of waited till Wednesday night, started in May. So we came down and I kind of adapted really quickly. It's kind of full throttle and go. And back then, I believe the bandos did not run restrictors that year.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the
up to the wall, kind of similar line to the legend cars.
And I think they only ran, I want to say 2 seconds off a legend car lap, which is incredibly fast for Waterford. So, but what was funny is I can remember the Wednesday opener, or it was a Saturday. It was one of the opening races, either my first or second race that year. I went into the corner and a wreck happened in front of me off of turn 4, and I went to go slam the brakes. And if you slam the brakes in a bando or as a quarter midget, it's very different. So the gas pedal, I pushed it so hard, the gas pedal literally stuck, locked up. I did a 360 and backed it in the fence in practice. And I think, I was probably, 2010, I was 11 years old. So being a kid, that's nerve-wracking, especially being so new to the car.
Right.
Coming out of turn 4, probably doing 50 or 60 miles an hour, doing a 360 and backing into the wall. I was pretty upset, but my dad fixed it. My dad and the crew fixed it. We got out there for the race, and I actually finished second, my opening race in a bando.
Wow.
And we got disqualified because we had the wrong gear in the car. There was a gear rule for the Bandoleros. The gear that I bought the car with was a gear, that normally when 600 or Inex now builds the car, they just throw a gear in. I wasn't smart, had no knowledge to check the actual gear ratio that was in it. So we just went out there, I ran second, and they DQ'd me, and I'm like, I didn't even know. So I always remember that, getting DQ'd my first race at Waterford. So that was fun.
Well, you live and you learn, When you start off in a new division, obviously it's, it's kind of tough. You're kind of getting used to the new rules and the new drivers and all that. So the new tech, everything that goes along with it. So
so we won two races that year, my rookie year in bandos and the first year at Waterford. And then 2011 was like an outbreak season. I think we won 8 or 9 features that year.
I was in the field that year. You won a lot of races that year. Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, I went on a vacation to the Jersey Shore July of 2011, and I missed a double feature. So I thank my mom for that one, I guess, booking a family vacation. So I gave up the championship that year. I think I finished 4th or 5th because I came back and we wrecked or something. But yeah, it was tough because not only losing the points lead, but losing like 2nd or 3rd because I missed 2 races. Right. So that was a bummer. But 2012, I bought the legend car, and that was kind of it for bandos.
Yeah, no, short, but obviously a successful couple of years in bandos. So, you go from you kind of, taking the route that a lot of guys take, right? They take the, go-karts to Bando legend car kind of route. Talk about, getting into legend cars, the switch, now the switch from Bando, same track, but, the switch from, getting into that legend car, which is like an animal, right? I mean, treaded tires, a lot of power, obviously, young kid getting into those cars. Talk about what that was like for you.
Yeah, so legend cars were like kind of the highlight of my racing career, I have to say. It taught me so much. Before I started racing legends, we kind of ended Bandos. We sold the Bando, and we kind of wanted to do something different. Back then, in 2012, legends were so big down south. I think, even kind of, you can even make the argument that they were bigger back then than they are now.
Yeah.
Just the car counts were up. Stuff was so much cheaper back then. The car counts, the people, the environments that you can go to, the racetracks they went to. So many racetracks they raced at that don't race today. So I bought my legend car in Mooresville, North Carolina, which you've been to Mooresville, North Carolina. A lot of racing people have. Off of Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder Racing was the team back then. He's no longer running that business. He moved to Ohio. But that was the same team that Daniel Hemrick, NASCAR Cup Series driver, Xfinity Series driver, was a member of, won the 2009 Legends Million race at Charlotte.
Yeah, big race.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Hooked up a legend car deal with him, ran for him for a couple of years before he moved. So when I went down there, I got fitted into the seat, and we went to Concord, which is a track no longer existing now, bulldozed.
Yep.
Ran that throughout the week, and we raced on Friday. So I got a lot of testing time done, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, leading up to the race. Got a feel for it. I was only 13 years old at this point, so pretty nerve-wracking because a legend car at those speeds, going from a Bando, it's pretty quick.
And you're talking about Concord, the small track.
The small track,
You don't know that Concord did have
the dog leg.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
They had the big track that the modifieds would race on, late models, and then they had, the small track out in the back that they would race the Bandos, legend cars, go-karts. I mean, that track was built for those cars. It was perfect, absolutely perfect for legend car and Bando racing, hands down. It was a great little track. Unfortunately, it's gone, but that was some good memories over there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can remember learning how to use a clutch because that was the first standard race car I drove.
Me too. First place I learned too was there.
Yeah, I mean, driving a legend car, like the clutch in a legend car, 20 times harder than a clutch in a regular street car.
Yeah.
It's just, because it's a motorcycle engine. It's not meant for the foot. It's really meant for the hand. So even harder for a 13-year-old especially.
It grabs super quick, so you kind of have to, for me, I know, so many times when I got into a legend, it was like, dumping the clutch, spinning the tires, obviously. So it's definitely kind of embarrassing, right? When you're in the pit area and everyone else is like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm trying to make practice or make my heat race, and here I am just, clunk, going through the pit. So that was kind of embarrassing. But I tested with a kid down there, and he was a teammate, learning from me, brand new legend cars. We started racing, and during the race, he actually took me out. Like, just drove to turn 2. I don't know if he got into his head and just cleaned me out. And I'm like, we didn't have radios back then, like we do now. So I got off the track and I'm like, I got dumped by my own teammate, Dad. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell is going on? I think I rebounded to like 9th, so I was happy. I got
you guys have like a Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez moment?
Yeah.
You guys had each other's faces and all
No,
that?
not really. Back then, I don't even remember the kid's name, but I was pretty upset about it. But I was able to rebound for a top 10. Happy my first legendary heart race, especially down south, was a top 10. I believe Chase Dowling was in that field back then.
Yeah.
A lot of guys who moved up to modifieds and stuff like that. Gray Galding, some other awesome names down there. I think maybe Daniel Hemrick could have ran it. Just really some awesome names that I'll remember that I actually raced against.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's obviously a cool experience you had down there. Now, one thing I did want to bring up, when you were kind of, over racing at Waterford, I remember this so vividly, and, hopefully you're okay talking about it, but, you had a pretty serious crash over at Waterford with your throttle sticking, I believe, right?
Yep.
Talk about that and kind of, was that kind of your first really, like, serious, wreck at a big track?
Yeah, definitely. My rookie year, which was 2012, I definitely had some wrecks that were pretty serious involving other cars. But 2013, my second year, was when the throttle stuck. And it was right in the beginning of the season. And that is also the year I won the championship, which we'll get into that conversation as well, because championship year. So we went out for practice, and
when was this? Was this at the beginning of the season?
It was in June. I don't
so
know the exact date. So second month into Wild and Wacky Wednesdays. So I get out there and, we're turning practice laps, warm-up laps. We go green, the second or third lap. Coming off of turn 2, foot to the floor, going down the backstretch. I'm getting ready to lift. And usually with the Legend car, the throttle has that kind of spring return. It's kind of that springy feel. Yep. I go to lift off the gas, and I don't feel the throttle like on the back of my foot. Right. I'm like, what the hell? And then next thing I know, I just hear the engine rev, screaming. Mm-hmm. And next thing I know, I am 90 miles an hour straight into the fence.
Yeah, I'll never forget that because I was there, and this was before they added the, where you could kind of go up on the fence and watch.
This was the guardrail wall.
Right, so they had the guardrail, the guardrail on the track, and then outside of the track behind the catch fence, as they called it before. There was those, those blocks, the
cement blocks that you would stand up on,
and they didn't want people to stand on them. But I was so little, I couldn't really see over it. And I remember my dad kind of had me up watching because we were getting ready to go legend car racing, shortly thereafter, and I was watching practice, and all of a sudden, I remember you coming, into 3 and just, the car didn't turn and it went straight.
No, I didn't have time to kill this. When I hit the wall, the engine was still revving, bouncing off the regulator, and I was sucked back so much in the seat from the G-force. I tried to kill it, and I actually did. Well, by then the car was destroyed. Jags, we stripped that car down literally right after, and bare chassis in Jags trailer off to the jig. So much damage that we weren't able to race that car the following Wednesday. But Joey Mooch actually that same night knew I was in the points lead and was like, dude, I'm racing part-time this year. You want to get in this car and take it out and just keep up the points? You're more than welcome to. And I'm like, I'm just getting out of the ambulance, getting checked out. I'm like, I don't want to race. And my dad was like, you want to win the championship or not? You better race tonight. And I'm like, okay. So get in the car. We raced. I finished 5th.
Yeah.
From dead last because it was a new car. Didn't qualify in it. Had to start in the back. I remember Mooch was kind of a way bigger kid than me back then. I was really short, and I didn't fit in his seat. I'm not kidding you. We stuffed it with pillows. We stuffed it with blankets, and I'm like, this is unsafe as hell. Mm-hmm. I got in. I'm literally sitting on pillows, strapping in. Yeah. And I'm like, drove right to the front, drove to 5th. I'm not even kidding you. Probably if I had 15 or 20 more laps, so that was a longer race, I could have won it. Yeah. The car was flying. Yeah. First car, didn't even get practice in it, just never drove somebody else's legend car before, got in and drove right to the front. Me and Mooch still talk about it to this day.
That's a cool story. And I know, Joey Mooch has been, a long-time friend of yours. So, it's got to be cool for someone to offer up their car like that for you, especially when you're in the points lead, right? You're kind of, the day just can't get any worse, right? You're in the ambulance getting checked out after, your throttle sticking, and it's like, man, what else could go wrong today? And then you kind of have that breakthrough of someone being like, hey man, take my race car, right? Everyone knows, race cars are like kids to people. So take my race car out and, go and keep up the points lead. That's got to be a cool feeling for sure.
Yeah, it was. I totally appreciated it because if it wasn't for him, I would have never won the championship that year. The following week, I used his car again because it was close, but we didn't want to push it. We didn't want to rush it. And that week after that I hit, I actually went to the doctors and wanted to get checked out because for concussions or stuff like that. And he literally goes, you should, you do have a concussion, because I was starting to get dizzy and stuff like that. He goes, I would be out of racing for a month or so at least. And I told him I raced that same night, and he looked at me like I had 5 heads. He was like, are you ridiculous? And I probably should have listened to him, but I raced the next week too. I never took a week off. Yeah. And I was risking a lot, racing with a concussion. But I did it, and the following week, I think we finished either 6th or 7th. So still consistent, right outside the top 5, getting those consistent runs, keeping my points chances alive. And then we moved into my car the following week, and it was awful. The car was totally a dog. It was slow, it wouldn't turn, it was tight, it was loose. I was a half second off the pace, and I'm like, I don't know if it's me being scared or just, it's a wreck. We gotta dial this thing in. Didn't get another win from that till the second to last Wednesday, and that's what locked me in. We spent all week at the shop scaling it, went to practice, just got it picture perfect, went to the track, and we dusted the field. And that was how I locked up the Wednesday championship that year. Yeah,
that was definitely, obviously, a huge deal. So that was really your first kind of, big championship, right?
That was kind of a launch, I would say.
Yeah, that's got to be a great feeling, right? Winning your first championship, huge deal, obviously, and how happy was it? How happy were you and your family, and kind of just to be able to be in that moment, go to the banquet, kind of enjoy that time of getting the trophy, getting your name called, and kind of going up there and standing in front of everyone that you just beat all year long, and being like, this is like, I won this year. This is me. How cool was that?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. Matt Buckler, who was the commentator back then.
Yeah,
and he still is. He's just awesome. I love him when he commentates. I still keep in contact with Matt as much as I can. He's really good with statistics on the Speedball. So is Sid. I get the Speedball history website. So I actually became the youngest champion in Speedball history for Legend Cars for the Wednesday division.
Yeah.
I believe it still stands. I'm not sure, so don't hold me to that. But that was pretty cool. And then I was the youngest driver to win a Legend Car race at 13, which Brody Monahan actually broke this past summer. Right. He was 13 as well, but he was less days or something like that. So that got announced. I saw something on Speedball history. So records are meant to be broken, and a guy that is sponsored by us at RaceChoice broke it. So how cool is that?
True.
For 13 years later, 10 years later.
If it had to be anybody, at least it was someone that's part of the RaceChoice family. So that's cool.
So being the youngest champion, like I said, they made that known at the banquet, which is really cool. And, I kind of felt on top of the world. Being a 14-year-old kid winning a Legend Car championship at one of the fastest Legend Car tracks in the country. Right. INX filled back then,
a lot of cars.
Big car counts back then.
20-plus car count every week.
Yep. Even on Wednesdays, Saturdays, 25, 20-plus every week. So
absolutely.
Made a really good speech, had time with family. I think the trophies were almost as tall as me that year.
Yeah.
Looking back. So that was a really fun year. And then I stayed in Legends for a couple years after that. 2014, we finished runner-up to Mike Christopher. 2015, I believe I was top 5 in points. And then 2016 was kind of the part-time with graduating high school and stuff like that. Yeah. So Legend Cars were really fun. Did a lot of traveling. Went up to New Hampshire a bunch. Never ran road course with them, unfortunately. I only had one car. Wanted to do road course. So ran New Hampshire, ran Legend Stock at Bethel a few times. Ran Seekonk, ran Concord, like I said. I think I went back down there once or twice. And a couple other tracks. So we had really fun
time. That's cool. So Legend Cars were they were the main bulk of your career, right? You were kind of in Legend Cars for quite a while, and obviously you were really good at them. I mean, do you even know how many wins you got in Legend Cars exactly? Because I don't even know. I mean, there's a lot.
I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say between 23 and 25.
Yeah, a lot of wins.
Yeah.
I mean, over the course of a couple years there. Yep. So that's got to be a cool feeling to know that you kind of won a bunch of races over a bunch of different seasons. So I mean that's obviously it's a big deal. I mean some people don't even get to win when they race. So to be able to win a lot of races like that has to be a great feeling for sure. So when was your last year in Legends?
2016.
16 was
your... 2017.
2017.
Yeah, you have me fooled now.
And then after that, you moved into something like this, right?
Yeah, and it's actually funny that you asked that last season in Legend Cars because I forgot to even bring up 2017. 2017 was the year I had the most wins during my Legend season. So that was probably the best year, minus the championship. So 2013, 2017 were probably my 2 favorite years in Legend Cars.
Cool.
Yep. So 2018, moved into the SK Modifieds. I sold my Legend car to Anthony Bello, who we did an interview with a couple weeks ago.
Right.
So me and his father and Anthony, we worked out a deal. I was going to run the family-owned SK Modified, and he was going to run the Legend car that he bought. So I had a lot of fun running that SK. Unfortunately, we didn't get up to Stafford, but we did get to Waterford as many times as we could. Learned a lot from them. Stephen Kovchik and his father built the whole car, as well as with John. They did an awesome job. I mean, that car was so clean. It was a CD chassis. Mike Paquette, who has been around racing a long time, one of Ryan Priest's main guys back then.
Right.
Ryan Priest winning the SK title at Stafford in 2011 with the CD car, I believe. So running a CD was cool. I learned a lot. And then in 2019, I bought my SK here.
Yeah, so you ran primarily at Waterford, obviously, right? And it's got to be a good feeling. I know for me, when I went from Legend Cars to SK Lights, it's like you're changing cars, but you already know the track. You know the line, you know the track. You've been watching, obviously, I'm sure, for years and years, a lot of friends, people that you knew watching SK races all the time. So you kind of have seen the racing, seen how it goes. So, to be a part of it, then, being actually a part of that field, I mean, how good of a feeling is that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going into the SK Modified division, that is it. You know,
Right.
you are where you want to be.
Top of the,
That's the top. Like, I'm racing against Keith Rocco. I'm racing against
Kyle James.
Yeah, all the main guys. I mean, even I think it was unfortunately, I didn't get to race against Teddy Christopher, but I believe you have. So that was definitely an honor. So kind of bummed about that. But I can remember always talking to him at the track as well. Getting some pointers, telling him I'm thinking about getting a modified because he was so influential on Mike Jr.'s career.
Oh yeah.
Especially in legend cars. He'd be there every Wednesday night when me and Mike would be duking it out. So fun to have conversations with him. But getting into the SKs, we were just. It's kind of hard to believe, to be honest with you. Just getting into it and knowing you're out there with the best of the best.
Yeah, no, top of like I said, kind of that's the top division, right? Everyone strives to get to that top division, So it's definitely obviously cool to be a part of it. So you partnered with the CD, car and kind of Bell a little bit and kind of got your own Troyer modified here. Talk about your experiences running the Troyer modified. Obviously, I know you kind of. You ran. How many years have you been with the Troyer here?
So I bought this Troyer in 2019. The Speedway was closed the 2019 season, so we went to Stafford. So my first laps in this car were at Stafford, which is really cool.
Yep.
Didn't have had some bad luck that year, but 2020 we kind of turned it around. So this is the fourth or fifth year having this car. So I'm real excited that I was able to buy my own car. The Troyers are totally a different ballgame than the CDs. They adjusted or adapt to adjustments a lot more. So it was kind of good to be able to see what the car does on the track, bring it into the shop every week, take your notes, scale the car, and make your own adjustments. Yeah. That was the big thing.
Now, one thing I did kind of want to go back on for a little bit. I don't know if you remember this or not. Back to the 2018 season, you and I got into a little bit of a scuffle in one of the races at Waterford. I don't remember exactly what went down, but. I'm pretty sure, from the way I remember it, I think you just kind of spun me out.
Yeah, and I think we'll bring up that picture actually. The way I look at it was, I was a rookie in SKs. Maybe a rookie mistake because you had a lot more experience back then. Yeah. I think 2016 you were already in SKs 3 years by then, or modifieds.
Listen, I don't know how many years I was in there, but I can't tell you.
I came off four and I throttled up and kind of saw you coming down off the wall trying to make the corner. You got me in my right front.
Pinch you a little bit.
I'm not going to lie, now I'm looking back, my spotter said, don't lift, keep in the gas. And some other words that we can't say here.
Just
he did say that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So that was Mike Sir Lucas spotting back then. So.
Listen, you got to be aggressive in these things. You got to do what you got to do.
But you were able to finish the race.
Hey, we were able to finish
the infield. No damage, little nose damage.
Little grass, had to vacuum out the car a little bit. But
fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so hey, listen, Joe and I remember I'm trying to...
No scuffles in Legends, though.
No, the only thing I remember was, in Legends, I remember one of the first, I think it was 2015. What year did you win the opener, right?
2015.
You and Blasky got...
Me and you started, yes, 2015, I got disqualified for over-aggressive driving on the opener, the Saturday opener. And then the 2015 opening Wednesday, I won.
That's what it was.
It went green to checkered. Me and you were on the front row. I won and you finished second.
Yep.
We started 1-2.
I do remember that. I think. Yep. I think that's what it was. I do remember. I was teammates with Blasky, and I think you and Mike Blasky kind of got into it. Maybe the week before or something like that. And I was behind you the whole race, and I had a great car that night. I honestly think that if I had a little more experience, I think we could have had a good battle.
For sure.
And I wasn't experienced enough to make the pass. Making a pass in legend cars is kind of nerve-wracking a little bit because, yes, there are fenders, but it's almost like if those cars touch right, it's like it almost seems like they're just gonna fly out of the track. It's so, they're open-wheeled, but they're not. So it's you can't make any contact. And I was very inexperienced. Obviously, you had a few years already under your belt.
No.
So I was kind of inexperienced, didn't know really what I was doing, but it's kind of cool to look back on some of these memories and kind of, talk about them a little bit and, talk about when you spun me out and all that good stuff.
Legend cars were a lot of fun. I really did enjoy running legend cars. I would say the only reason I would enjoy running legend cars more is because I got wins under my belt and I ran up front a lot more. But that's the name of the game. Moving into this division, I have struggled. I will admit that. But it's a learning point. It's really how much you race. I'm racing as much as possible, as much as I can, even though it's been more of a part-time schedule. I have yet to run a full season in the SK mods. But, that's the name of the game. Yeah. A lot of people, like you said at the beginning, would kill to race. Even like you said, in quarter midgets, anything, legend cars, even these things. I'm out there as much as I can, and I'm thankful for every time I'm strapping in that car.
So we talked about the past a little bit. Let's talk about the future, right? Let's go into the future. What do you got planned for the future? What do you got planned for this year or upcoming years? And what do you want to do?
Yeah, so I think the first thing about this race season is this is really the first race season that's kind of up in the air for me. Sponsorship's a kind of a hassle this year. Latitude has been such a great sponsor of mine the past 13 years since 2010. They have helped me. Without them, my racing career wouldn't have been possible. As well as my dad, anybody in my family. My uncle has been such a great support. My mom, even, always coming to support when she can. So many people who have helped me throughout the years. I love seeing, going up to the stands when the race is done, or even before the race, and seeing my family, talking to them, watching the races before mine. Everyone tells me good luck, and I kind of love a fan club at the track. As for you, you have a lot of people come, a lot of people support you. It's just a good feeling knowing that there's people there that come and spend their Saturday night or even their weeknight on a Wednesday, when they have work and stuff like that, coming down and supporting you. So I think the biggest thing, when you're older, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. Graduating college, graduating high school back then, it was that was kind of the realization with I don't know how long I'm going to race for and how much time I'm going to be able to spend and put into this. Like I said, graduating college, my parents were always tough on me growing up. Education was a really big priority. So I'm thankful for that. Thankful I graduated college. I did stay home, stayed local, commuted to college because I did want to race. So I got that done, got an education. So I'm really proud of being able to do that. Proud of myself that I was able to do both. So that was really cool to look back on. But in terms of this year, I really don't know what is in store. I would like to race as much as possible, but just sponsorship and the way things are going now, that's the biggest thing. So I'm keeping my head up high. A lot of people can agree, even you. I'm always a positive person. Right. I'm looking to the future, looking to be there every week, whether I'm racing or not. So I definitely going to be there every week, like we talked about, doing some race choice stuff.
Absolutely.
So that is the biggest thing, and I'm really thankful for where I've come to at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it definitely sounds like, hopefully things work out, and hopefully you see you back on the track. Obviously, I want to race with you again. Maybe, have you, bump into me again or something like that or whatever. But
of course.
No, in all seriousness, I mean, we're going to miss having you at the track every week racing, but you're going to be at the track every week still hanging out and doing, race choice stuff and media stuff too, which it's definitely kind of nice. I always said, even, if I couldn't be a part of the race going on the track, I want to be a part of something else going on in the pits or whatever it is.
I can't stay away. It's addicting.
Can't stay away. It's, it's an addiction, and it's a healthy one. It's definitely, a better one to have than most, but it's, can't stay away from the track. I mean, obviously we're excited to get back going racing. Obviously it's about to start up here in the next few weeks. So
it got rained out this weekend.
Yeah, but we're looking forward to, getting back to the track. So you're going to be, hanging out at all 3 tracks this year, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Very good. So I know you touched on a couple people that helped you out. Anybody else that you want to talk about real quick that kind of, helped you get to this point?
Just the foundation of my career, like quarter midgets, the Flannerys, the Sherman family, Bandoleros, Jags kind of buying that car. Everyone just helped me set up just getting into racing. Dan Snyder, like I mentioned, Dan Snyder Racing in Mooresville kind of sparked that legend car career. Everyone in SK Modifieds, John Bello for getting my start right into the SKs, and everyone who's helped me up to this point. We've had some really cool names walk through not just this shop, my old shop, and been able to kind of bring the car to. Keith Rocco is another big one. Without Keith, a lot of this isn't possible either. Keith gave me a job for a couple of summers working in the shop, helping him out, learning a lot about the modifieds, which was really cool. And kind of leaving me there alone sometimes and being able to work on cars and do stuff for him. So for him to be able to, trust me being in the shop and doing some stuff, that really meant a lot to me. Yeah. Even though it wasn't that long ago, it was still kind of looking back a young age. So I'm really appreciative of that, and always remember that. Jason Shepard has been a really influential part of doing the setups on this thing, as well as Jimmy Fuller, who came aboard last year and helped me out. So that was really cool. Jason Shepard, Eric Goodale's crew chief on the tour, so a big name. Eric Goodale's won a lot of cool races. I believe he won Martinsville a couple of years ago. So this thing has been at Jason's shop numerous times, and I remember when I wrecked, I wanted to put it together, and Jason was like, if you don't have the time to finish, just drop it off. We'll put it together, we'll finish it. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because he could have set it up, and he could have said, finish it, bring it to me, but he wanted to finish the whole car, put it on the scales, and I picked it up and went right to the track.
It's nice to have people like that, to support you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's about it. Just, I'm sure I'm forgetting people, but, I hit the nail on the head with the people that I have to thank the most. So I want to thank everyone who's, supported me up to this point, and hopefully it's not the end, but hopefully there is more to come. But I'm influential and hoping I can bring positive future.
Absolutely. Well, that was another episode of our Driver Focus over here on YouTube. Thank you again, Joey, for having us over here at your shop here in Portland, Connecticut. We wish you the best of luck this year in whatever you do and in all of your future endeavors. So thank you for having us, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.